Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called Lady Baby. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy. Cold darkness surrounds a woman as she feels her consciousness returning. In spite of wondering where she is, Calliope, or Lipe as her family once called her, actually finds the darkness as a calming thing, just as warm as her mother's embrace. And so, the girl who's been through too much allows herself to be taken by the stretching darkness, wishing to stay there in that state, alone, yet calm forever. That is until suddenly, the cries of a baby echo through the supposed empty darkness, startling Lipe. Although she doesn't have time to process this as mere moments later, a blinding light arrives. And Lipe, adjusting her eyes from this sudden burst of light, opens them to find that against all logic, she's now a newborn baby, and the cries from earlier were hers from being brought into the world once again. Maids flock around the new maiden of the family, praising the birth of their new lady master. But none are more excited and concerned for her well-being than her parents. In fact, the first words of her mother, Mrs. Rustichel, after the birth is to ask for her baby, which she snuggles close to her face after the maids give Lipe to her. Not a moment later, her husband, the Duke of the household, bursts into the room with an anxious and excited look. One look at his newborn's daughter's face melts the scared feeling the man is experiencing, and after checking the state of his wife and daughter, kisses Rustichel tenderly on the cheeks to congratulate the birth of their first daughter. Their actions are testaments that Lipe will be loved immensely. Suddenly, the baby gives one sharp cry, surprising both her parents. Declaring her voice to be sweet and calm, they named her Calliope. Yes, somehow the only surviving member of their family, Calliope manages to rewind her life right back to her own birth. Even as a baby, Lipe remembers a life she had once and is starting to think that perhaps the lady who asked her to sing must have been some god. Nonetheless, she now has a new start in her old life, and so she vows to value this one much more. Meanwhile, her two attentive older brothers fawn over their little sister, arguing over which one of them Lipe has taken after, be it their eyes or hair. She even has adorable siblings! She will surely be loved by this family. It's actually very sweet how they try their best to calm down the crying baby and how they genuinely care for Lipe. The one good thing about being sent back in time with your memories intact is you remember all the people who've wronged you before. Lipe makes good use of this, even as a baby. She shows her disdain against a certain butler who, despite showing good faith now, turns out to be a very antagonistic figure towards her in the future. I sure hate him already. In order to get rid of him, she throws a tantrum, spilling her food all over his face. She also admits to her main caretaker that she's scared of him, which she says in a very cute baby voice. How adorable. Anyhow, the time comes for Lipe's first birthday, and so the family throws an extravagant party for their only daughter. Because she can speak in almost full sentences in a very cute baby voice, she thanks her family, causing them to appreciate her sweetness. Although they admittedly did not invite tons of guests because they appreciated it too much. Even at 1 year old, they believe Lipe is too beautiful that people will hit on her, as per her mother, and so her father and brothers all swore individual oaths to always protect baby Lipe. Truly a loving family we all want. Her brothers dote on her every instance they get. However, she particularly feels bittersweet every time she lays eyes on the eldest, Lucius, the one who goes missing in the future during their family's lowest. Despite that, she gives her best smile to her stoic yet sweet brother. But as per usual, the second son of the family, Robel, a more playful and cheerful personality than their brother, competes for Lipe's attention by making the baby laugh. Lipe does call him cute, so Robel rubs it in Lucius's face. The eldest, knowing it's better to not encourage his brother any longer, instead focuses on Lipe. They stare in silence, but still, they share a smile. It turns out that the two are making too much noise for the baby, and so the maid comes to take Lipe to their mom because it's time to eat. And yet still, the brothers follow them. They are like little ducklings following the baby around. The two are even mesmerized as they watch Lipe feed on their mother's milk. All the while, Mrs. Rustichel caresses her daughter gently. However, she has to go through the embarrassing burping routine, so that's that. Anyway, Robel pleads with his mom to let him hold Lipe, but Mrs. Rustichel refuses. However, she promises her son that if he manages to master the sword technique he's been practicing, the head slash, then he'll be allowed to hold the baby. But Lucius says he's already done mastering the move, and so he is allowed to hold Lipe by himself. Robel gets annoyed at this, of course, making him declare that he'll also master the move in under a month. The eldest son then fires back an insult that he'll have to stop slacking around if he wants to do so. I'm sorry, Robel, but he's got a point. You better work hard if you want to hold a little baby. But in actuality, Robel takes after their mother, who herself is getting ticked off that Lucius wouldn't let go of her only daughter. Lipe's family gathers for her father's arrival after a long trip. It seems that despite her father being a kind man before, she doesn't have any memory of her dad holding her as a baby. Determined to change that, and a lot of things in her future at that, baby Lipe reaches out her tiny hands so that her father would want to hold her. And he seems willing at it too. But if Robel takes after Rustichel, then Lucius takes after the Duke, having a calm demeanor that is the exact same as his father's. In his jealousy, he determines his dad is tired and so he must hold on to Lipe. As the two engage in a staring contest, Lipe thinks deeply about her family and knowing how they loved her this much. She even thinks that despite them being a little different from her memories, everyone will die early. And so she questions whether or not she's still allowed to be happy even in this new start in life. But all that worrying leads to her being knocked out cold in her sleep. Well, babies aren't meant to be thinking that much anyway. Still, when she wakes up, Lipe feels a sudden burst of encouragement, seemingly out of the desire to savor the moments with her family. The itty-bitty baby tries her hardest to roll over on her side and move. Eventually, through a lot of cute effort, Lipe finally manages to lay on her stomach all on her own, much to her maid's amusement. They even start to feed her baby food instead of being reliant on milk, at the rate she's growing. The fact that Lipe's eating so obediently brings delight to her caretaker. Of course, it's not perfect, as she still chokes on the food on rare occasions. But this time, a certain black-haired boy with golden eyes comes to greet Lipe, and he looks to be close friends with Lucius. Immediately, Lipe recognizes him as Harrison Alpinus, or Hal, the eldest child of Duke Alpinus, and is also the one who went searching and got killed for the disappearance of his best friend Lucius. When Lipe starts frowning because of all the thoughts in her head, Brother Hal smiles at her, saying that she must grow up splendidly. In turn, the baby smiles back, leaving Hal to wonder whether or not Lipe is really a baby. You couldn't be more right, Hal. Anyway, a lot of brotherly ruckus starts when Hal tries to lift Lipe, and an ever-jealous Lucius slaps his hands away, while he himself takes her. Even now, Lipe is shocked by how much affection he shows, unlike in their previous lives. A second later, Robel bursts into the room, demanding his time with Lipe too. But again, Lucius is very territorial of his sister. Regardless, Lipe vows to protect all her brothers from what's to come. Lucius shares his concern for his sister with Hal. Apparently, Lipe is somewhat of a quiet baby. She also doesn't cry a lot, nor does she play with baby toys. Lucius even overhears their parents talking about it. The doctor said there was no physical problem, but still, babies are hard to diagnose. And so Hal, seeing his best friend like this for the first time, does his best to reassure him. And Lucius gets more of that when Robel suddenly arrives. He says that Lipe is attentive with her eyes and how she grasps their fingers whenever they reach out to her, so there's nothing to worry about. As the brothers go, he and Lucius get into another banter, but unexpectedly, the latter caresses the former's head when he realizes that Robel is maturing as an older brother to Lipe. Speaking of Lipe, she's having her very own dilemma now. She's unconsciously doing baby stuff, like sucking her thumb. Embarrassing as it is, it turns out her teeth are growing in, and when she decides to show it to her caretaker, it becomes another big thing in their loving household. Despite her teeth growing in, Lipe still finds it a bit embarrassing when trying to show her mother that she now has them. She is an adult in a baby's body after all. Of course it's embarrassing. However, I'm sorry, I can't help it. You're so cute, Lipe. Unfortunately for her, that feeling goes even deeper as the other members of the family start to arrive on the news that she's really growing up. First, it's her brother Robel, who's as noisy as always. But rather unexpectedly, her father also comes into the room as well, instantly chastising Robel for his ruckus. Lastly, Lucius arrives, asking his mom if Lipe does indeed have teeth. But even with a larger crowd, Lipe still doesn't want to do it. It's only when she sees her father's eager face does she eventually cave in, much to their delight. But that's not the end of her being the center of attention for today. Now, at her feeding time, and with the whole family, father and brothers included, attentively watching her, Lipe decides to do something brave. Without assistance, she grabs the spoon all by herself and tries to eat all on her own. But even the noblest of efforts sometimes fail, and in her case, her wrists aren't strong enough yet for that. Still, even though her family is quite supportive, Lipe is still riddled with embarrassment at her first attempt at eating. Baby Lipe drifts off to sleep with a smile on her face, hoping for the best. Unfortunately, her dreams are filled with memories of the deaths of her family and the ruin of her house. So perhaps sleep is too much for her right now. Regardless, she again vows to do everything in her power to stop all that from happening again. But when she reaches out and notices how tiny her arms are, she falls into despair that she can't do anything as of now. But as quickly as she gets down, she gets back up again, deciding to build herself up little by little. Love the determination. You can change your fate, little Lipe. We know you can. She keeps practicing throughout the night until tears form in her eyes at how bad she still is. But despite that, Lipe is determined nonetheless. Anyhow, the next morning comes and Lipe's nanny notices how much in a good mood the baby is. On the other hand, Lipe stares intently at her caretaker, knowing that she, in the future of her past life, will stay by her side amidst all of the hardships that they will face. Lipe decides to speak her first words, lovingly dedicated to her nanny, but stops herself when she thinks it better to do so when her whole family is present. Not that the nanny minded, though. She still seems very happy at Lipe's cute attempt. Lipe's father strolls into the room where the baby is having her meal. His gentle hands caress the baby as he checks on her as he passes by, and Lipe almost utters words again. In the cutest way, she stops herself from speaking, as she wants her whole family present when she utters her first complete words. She had these words mulling over in her head for months, and now she's capable of attempting it and determined to do so at that. And pretty soon, she gets her wish as her two brothers, along with her mother, arrive just in time after her meal. Not wishing to delay herself any longer, baby Lipe overcomes her nervousness in order to speak in very clear sentences, though with only a few words muffled with her baby talk. Even her messages are so sweet, as she first mentions her parents and how thankful she is to them for giving birth to her, then how much she loves her brothers and even her nanny, which she's grateful for. Perhaps the only thing that can top the cuteness, or the suddenness rather, of Lipe's first complete words are the faces of each of the people she mentions when she finally speaks. Even her usually collected father couldn't hide his shock. Such a touching moment. Nevertheless, baby Lipe seems proud of her progress, though it takes her a while to notice her entire family frozen in place. Robel is the first to respond, as usual, because his excitement always gets the better of him, and he smothers Lipe with his hugs and kisses. Lucius also says, "I love you," back to Lipe, though he first makes sure to put on a calm face before he does so, something Robel teases him for. In spite of all that, Lipe's happy that this is the first time Lucius actually put those feelings into words for her. Meanwhile, it's now her parents' turn to give their love as well, as both her father and mother hug and say their words of affirmation. And perhaps keeping with the family's now boosted emotions, the Duke suddenly calls for his two sons and says, "I love you," to them both as well. Aw, what a sweet moment! Though at first the boys are at a loss on what to say because of their father's out-of-the-blue statement, Robel finds himself answering back despite the awkwardness. And in that moment, the Duke realizes that perhaps his sternness can sometimes hurt his sons, and they deserve compliments from time to time. Regardless, they are proud of Robel's expressiveness and Lucius' maturity, and Rustichel reminds her sons again how much their parents love them. Such a sweet family moment, all because of Lipe. Happiness is the best emotion, simply because it's infectious. All of them, for the first time in Lipe's new and old life, declared their love for one another. And Lipe, despite being a baby who can't share her family's attention that much as of now, finds that happiness also creeps in just by watching her family. As it seems, her rather fast development and unnatural intelligence don't go unnoticed much longer, as a while later, Rustichel mentions that to her husband. When his wife mentions how their daughter is growing up too fast, even speaking full sentences at barely a year old, the Duke admittedly lets the fact slip his mind because of Lipe's love. Now, worry creeps in as his wife shows concern about the possibility of their daughter perhaps not being all right. Suddenly, the Duke asks the nanny's opinion on the matter. After considering her answer, the nanny admits that worry is among the things she felt the moment she knew Lipe is different from other babies, but she only thinks so because she considers her as special. The nanny's positive attitude manages to flip Lipe's parents' opinion right on top of their heads. With happiness and excitement replacing their worry from earlier, the couple gets excited at the thought of their child being a possible genius. Speaking of the nanny, she finds herself answering a maid's question about Lipe's sudden first words when the night has arrived. Of course, she confirms it as the truth, and even shows a little bit of pride when she mentions how baby Lipe is also thankful to her caretakers as well. But as luck would have it, they did not have the time to talk about it more as the baby has fallen asleep, and so the two caretakers reaffirm their happiness at their master's youthful intelligence, right before the nanny is left with Lipe. Now caressing the baby's hair, the nanny feels thankful as Lipe's kind words about her still ring in her mind. Lipe finds herself grasping her nanny's fingers as she puts her to bed, though it's only to say that she thinks her nanny is part of her family too. Now that Lipe's openly talking, she sure does take every opportunity to do so. Anyway, the sweet words from her young miss melt the heart of the old caretaker, who gently picks up the baby for a hug and declares that she loves Lipe as her own. As for Lipe, the image of her caretaker from her ruined past life is still fresh in her mind, as if a memory from yesterday. Not wanting for that to happen again becomes another fuel to Lipe's desire to grow as quickly as possible. While she's thinking about training her body more, the nanny notices her clasping her hands open and close, so she tries to test her young mistress's ability to control her movements. After showing her ways to do so, by tapping a finger in one's palm to be exact, Lipe is determined to get the exercise done despite failing once or twice. And speaking of effort with muscle control, after some time has passed, Lipe is trying to learn how to walk with her father as her guide. With her father urging her to come to him, Lipe's face fills with a bit of disappointment. Nonetheless, the disappointment is replaced with determination as she is adamant she gets this done one little baby step at a time. Although whenever she gets a little bit closer, her father steps back a bit, making her walk a bit longer. In the cutest way possible, she breathes deeply, right before scolding her father about not testing her limits that much. The Duke's eyes are like owls due to shock, but still, he manages to say sorry to his baby daughter, when in actuality, he's extremely proud that his daughter is showing signs of being a genius. Anyway, now with her father's promise not to step back anymore, the cute, pouting Lipe again continues taking her baby steps little by little, closely walking towards her father's smile and wide-open arms, right until she reaches him and the two embrace. It's such a sweet sight, looking at a father who loves his children very much. Lipe's parents are exploding in joy and excitement as their daughter finally managed to make her first steps. Both her mother and even her father are filled with smiles as they say how proud they are of Lipe. Her father starts kissing his daughter on the cheeks tenderly, though Lipe finds that his beard stings whenever he does that. Her mother even circles the date on their calendar in order to commemorate her first baby steps, making Lipe thankful that she isn't part of the royal family because things like this tend to be handled way too much than necessary. And to even go further from his usual self, the Duke shows his playful side by singing and lifting the baby high up in his arms. That is, until his wife grabs the child while scolding him for doing so. Even the Duke is no match for his wife, it seems. Anyway, Lipe now finds herself in front of her meal during her feeding time, and it seems that she isn't as immune to baby-like thoughts. Out of the blue, she keeps getting the urge to flip the bowl of food over. In her mind, her mature side and baby thoughts are fighting, simply because she wants to see the wide side of the bowl facing the table. Right when she's losing the battle, a knock rang through the door. The butler that Lipe despises has made his appearance once again, though this time he's only there to talk to her caretaker. Seeing as she's busy with the young lady, he instead excuses himself and asks to meet with her another time. However, with the insistence of her nanny, who wants the butler to get to know the young miss, she urges him to come forward. But in what is perhaps the coldest stare she has ever made in her life, Lipe seems to strike cold daggers with her gaze, and in 2 words, she asks the butler to leave. Brr! A baby being cold! Now that's something you don't see every day. Though the butler has a kind demeanor and a calm attitude and is perfect in everyone's eyes, there's something unsettling about him. In her past life, this butler was two-faced. In the present, Lipe bites her lower lip out of hatred and resentment towards him. Despite struggling to hold the plate, she suddenly splashes it on his face. Ah! Be gone, butler! The butler wipes the food from his face and leaves the room displeased. Her nanny wonders what could be the reason behind Lipe's behavior, but given how Lipe's brothers acted the same before, it just shows how bad he is when it comes to children. Lipe grabs her nanny's dress and openly tells her that she doesn't want to see the butler because he's scary. As the nanny comforts the baby, she can't help but suspect that the butler is bullying her when nobody's around, so she has to be cautious about him. Aw, how kind of her! Lipe's surely surrounded by lovely people. Later on, the whole family celebrates Lipe's second birthday. Everyone gathers around and dresses up nicely. Despite her very young age, she already manages to formulate words to speak, though she still talks like a baby. Her mother made the right choice not to invite any guests, or else Lipe will be the talk of the town if they hear that she can speak. Her mother is her biggest fan, admiring how she gave birth to a lovely, cute, and smart daughter, to the point that she's already overthinking that there'd be a lot of people to pursue her. Calm down, Mother. She can barely flip over yet. Meanwhile, Lipe's father thinks of something else, like never giving up on his daughter. Brother Lucius, on the other hand, always wants to live with her. And the most unbelievable of all is that Robel thinks of marrying his baby sister. Like, that would happen, Robel? But despite how crazy and troublesome they are, they agree on one thing. They will always protect her no matter what. Calliope continues talking like a grown-up. The whole family just stands there and listens to every word she says, somehow surprised that a 2-year-old baby can say something so deep. Realizing how immersed they look, Lipe remembers that during the past year, she was mostly lying down in the cradle as she kept being haunted by her past tragedy. Every day, as she looked at how much they treasured her existence, she didn't think of anything else but to grow faster and protect them. Because of this, she was getting impatient and frustrated at herself for being too small and weak. But you can't rush this thing, Lipe. Humans don't just grow up overnight. However, this time she realizes that spending time with her family is just as important as protecting them. And so she happily tells them that their time together for the past year is the most precious one, closest to her heart. Aww, I hope she'd just stay like a baby forever. She's way too cute and sweet. The whole family is even more surprised at this point. How come a 2-year-old baby can say something like that? Her parents look at each other and finally come to a conclusion. Their daughter is a genius. Looking at how happy they are, Lipe is even more motivated to protect her family's happiness. She wants to make more memories together, but she still has time to save everyone's life. That's right, Lipe. Don't pressure yourself to grow up so quickly and just enjoy the present. And because of the way she talks to them, her father now thinks that he might be old and weak in Lipe's eyes, so he declares to increase the amount of training. Hearing this, Lucius whispers to Robel, saying that the White Dragon Knights will be going through some hell's training. There's no way their father's going to train by himself. One morning, Robel and Lucius spend their time in a duel. Recently, Robel notices that Lucius, who has a cold personality, starts to have a conversation with him. Ever since Lipe was born, the two brothers have gotten closer, and Lucius sometimes pats his brother's head, especially if Robel learns a new skill. Lipe has really become the glue that holds this family even closer. As for Robel, ever since he started training harder to be able to hold Lipe, training has become fun and become more prideful of his swordsmanship. So having a duel with Lucius, who is known for his swordsmanship, makes him worthy enough to be his opponent. On the other hand, Lucius notices how Robel has improved over the past 2 years. As Robel swings his wooden sword, Lucius manages to dodge it, leaving his opponent unable to retreat from getting hit. It is shameful for a knight to close their eyes during a duel, so Robel bravely faces his brother, who's now going to hit him. But instead, Lucius smirks and drops his sword to give him a head flick. This sibling relationship is so cute. Robel remembers when he used to flick Lipe's head, so to avenge her, Lucius hit him with that too. Even though he has a cold personality, he can be childish sometimes. And so the brothers continue to argue about Lipe's wide vocabulary that they don't even know about. Inside the mansion, Lipe's father seems so anxious about his body, remembering what Lipe said about growing old with her. He resolved to do brutal training just to improve his muscles, but still, it won't stick out like a bodybuilder. His wife notices him getting all anxious about his body, so she compliments him, saying that he's still full of energy. Lipe's father blushes at his wife's remarks. He then leans closer to her and asks if they shall have another daughter. All right, folks, time to focus on the baby. Although it is adorable that these sneaky parents are still so sweet on each other. In the garden, Lipe's practicing to walk straight. She's so focused on her goal that she isn't even paying attention to how the servants giggle at her cuteness. She's still having trouble walking straight and ends up losing her balance. Just then, the servants offer their hands to help her stand, while some continue to admire how adorable she is. As she looks at them, she remembers the past when they had to fire all the workers because the house was ruined and her mother fell ill. Even still, some continued to visit because they were worried. And so Lipe smiles as she thanks them for trying to lift her up. All those who witness the baby talking are shocked that the rumors are true. The baby is a genius. The servants then argue about whom should Lipe reach out to whenever she needs their help. But Lipe makes it clear that they have their own special jobs and that she can't just call them anytime. Also, she addresses that if there's anything troubling them, then they should talk to her. Everyone now thinks of her as the genius of the century. Well, not entirely everyone. They say that in every sheep, there's always a black one. This time, a worker suddenly blurts out how weird and disgusting that a 2-year-old can speak like that. He isn't even planning on speaking politely to her, calling everyone pathetic and pitiful for doing so. How dare this person? What kind of an adult picks a fight with a child? This angers the servant who supports Lipe, calling him crazy for bullying a child. He still continues to spout nonsense to the point that the servants unite to have him pay for the price of speaking ill toward Lipe. You go, guys! Defend the baby from that weirdo bully! Shortly after, words reach Lipe's mother. The butler thinks that the worker wasn't entirely wrong for thinking that indeed, Lipe is a weird one. But of course, he just keeps that opinion to himself, or else his head would be flying in an instant. Lipe's mother then orders him not to let this bad news reach her daughter's ears. She still mumbles to herself instead of focusing on the important matters. Just because of a small incident like this, she forgot the order of urgent matters. This time, she clenches her fist on the table, looking so annoyed and agitated. And then, a thought comes to mind. Later that day, she summons the servants one by one to hear about Gilbert, the worker who spoke bad things about Lipe. Turns out that Gilbert keeps sexually harassing the maids many times already, and instead of doing his job, he procrastinates all the time. Mrs. Rustichel now looks really cheerful despite having heard bad things about Gilbert. Well, that's not because she doesn't care about her servants, but because they're bringing more reasons to fire him. Yes, Queen! You need to kick that man out! If she fires him without a reason, the workers would start rumors that might end up reaching Lipe. Also, she can't continue to have a troublesome worker, and because of that, he will be... dun dun dun! Truthfully, as soon as the butler mentioned Gilbert, his future was already decided. Thanks to everyone who loves Lipe so dearly, everything became easier for Mrs. Rustichel. What could be her plan? Later that night, Gilbert is all beat up. How did this happen? Well, he was kicked out of the Rustichel property and was forbidden to even enter. Serves him right. The owner of the resto bar recognized him at first glance. Who wouldn't remember someone who was dumb and stupid enough to cause trouble to the Rustichel family after hiring him despite his behavior? Hearing the rumors that it's difficult for him to look for another job, the owner was sick and worried if he even had money for the beer. Suddenly, the other servants also entered the same resto bar where Gilbert was. And of course, he snapped out and blamed them for the situation he was in. The servants were about to leave in order not to cause trouble. But then Gilbert went crazy and started justifying how he didn't sexualize women and that they should be grateful for wearing a skirt with a body like that. Can someone teach this guy a lesson? He's getting on our nerves. That's it. The male servant who worked as a gardener clenched his fist and asked him to go outside. And there, Gilbert got beat up so bad that he looked like trash himself. I'm sorry, morals, but this guy definitely deserves this. Meanwhile, in the mansion, Lipe takes a peek at Robel, who diligently reads books for her sake. She then sits beside her brother and asks him to continue reading the book. Robel can't contain her cuteness, so he hugs and pats her head. Even though he gets mad when thinking about it, he believes that Lucius did say something that he should read books. Lucius never said that. Also, his mother was teary-eyed seeing him reading a book. He then realizes that Lipe came to him because she thinks that he's cool too. Well, of course he imagines himself handsomely reading a book. Well, that's how he thinks of himself. Who are we to judge that? Fascinated by his own imagination, he tries to find a perfect word to match his fantasies. He asks Lipe if he is intensely handsome. The actual word is intellectually. Lipe's expression isn't what he expected. A while ago, he thought Lipe would ask him to marry her after she fell in love with how handsome he looked when reading a book. Ugh, this boy is really hopeless. Bro, you better grow out of this because, well, she's your sister. Lipe looks at him and starts lecturing him about using proper words. People's personalities are developed by how they talk and behave. Robel stares at her blankly, unable to comprehend what his sister said. She said developed, but he heard diarrhea. Lipe, on the other hand, is treating her brother like a baby. She forgot that she herself is a baby too. Robel brightly smiles at her and plays with her pinky promise. Even though Robel is like that, his personality makes him cute and bright as a person. Shortly after, Robel starts reading an arithmetic book. Clearly, he isn't that good in academics, but he also doesn't want Lipe to think that he's a dumb brother. Aw, you're still learning. Don't be hard on yourself. For no reason, Robel is embarrassed when Lipe stares at him while he's counting numbers. Confident that a 2-year-old kid won't know about math, he loudly arrives at the wrong answer. Knowing that her brother will be sad if she says he's wrong, she decides to let him figure out the answer by himself. Besides, it's normal to make mistakes at such a young age. And so she asks him to teach her numbers. Robel is so happy that his little sister relies on him. Now he thinks of himself as the number genius. He then asks her to open her hands and bends her finger as he counts 0. For a moment, he forgets his objective and starts squishing her small fingers. Lipe pulls her hand away, asking her brother to use his fingers instead. Surprisingly, he is explaining it pretty well. Lipe is sort of proud looking at her brother, who now looks even happier. But then, he realizes something. Robel finally arrives at the correct answer. Looking at Lipe, he thinks that she won't know that he messed up, but of course, Lipe already knows, but she's still very proud of her brother. She realizes that acting like a baby isn't that bad. Lipe goes back to her room as Robel keeps studying, motivated that he can teach her more in the future. Later that day, Lucius enters her room without knocking first. Of course, Lipe is so strict about manners, so he got reprimanded a little. Still, Lucius finds her cute as her small body is shaking because half of her body is her head. LOL, why are you thinking that way? And why are you making that face, Lucius? It's not so like you. He then approaches her and pats her head. Somehow he feels displeased as he remembers how Robel bragged about earlier. Isn't it a good thing that Robel is interested in studying? This time, he is also determined to be Lipe's teacher, assuring her that he's a better one. Seeing her brother's stern face, she can't figure out if he's really jealous or what. So she tries to explain that they are both great at it and that there's nothing to compare. Just then, Lucius suddenly brings her closer to him. Confirmed! Lucius is jealous. Lipe doesn't know how to handle the situation. However, she's able to say something really important. One's opponent isn't from the outside, but from the inside. Winning against oneself is something worth calling a true victory. Just then, Lucius remembers what his father always tells him during training. How did he forget the words that he used to hold dear? Lucius now feels shameful to admit that there's no point in competing against Robel, and so he offers to read her a fairy tale instead. Seriously, it's difficult to understand rivalry between kids. Years have passed, and Lipe is now at the age of 5. She looks pretty dazzling as she sparkles at every angle. Her mother, who helps in picking an outfit for her tea party, shows how much she adores her daughter even more to the point that they spend hours just for an outfit. Shortly after, Lipe's ready to go to her tea party. Lipe's pronunciation has gotten better throughout the year, so there's no problem in communicating with other people. Also, it's her first time socializing after the incident in the past where everyone in her family died. Considering how it was easily buried away, it must be related to high nobles who can easily cover up such issues. As she looks at her mother, she's being reminded that she still has 10 more years to cherish every moment with her family. For now, her priority is to make her mother happy. Speaking of the tea party, she overhears her mother and Nanny's conversation about Lady Sarlino's appearance at the tea party. It's been a year since the noble lady attended a social gathering after what happened, but still, Mrs. Rustichel is glad that the child who survived will be able to attend the party. The Sarlino family originally had twins. The older twin sister sadly died in an unfortunate accident. For the younger brother to experience this much trauma, he later committed mass murder as he grew older. Losing a family member is the most painful feeling, but still, that doesn't justify murder. Murder won't change anything. As soon as Lipe and Mrs. Rustichel arrive at the social banquet, Lipe introduces herself in an elegant manner. The nobles fawn over her and directly ask Mrs. Rustichel about the child's etiquette teacher. Of course, there's none. She learned by herself. She's just naturally perfect. Despite Mrs. Rustichel's honest remarks, a noblewoman suddenly joins the conversation and shames Mrs. Rustichel's reputation by calling her selfish. Another meddlesome person! These people are just jealous, I tell you. Everyone becomes silent for a moment. Some even laugh about it. Seriously? Too much fuss over a teacher? To be insulted at a social gathering is a common occurrence, so Mrs. Rustichel decides to let it slide, but how dare they say such things about her lovely Lipe? Lipe is a tactful child. She must have already noticed the change in atmosphere by now. Speaking of Lipe, Mrs. Rustichel panics for a second, looking where she is. Suddenly, Lipe announces to everyone that her one and only teacher is her mother. She's been watching her mother since birth, which is why she's well-versed in etiquette. Oof, that's quite a slap on that noble lady's face. The noblewoman is taken aback by how she tears down all the fuss to shame Mrs. Rustichel in front of everyone. Perhaps she's just jealous that the lady has a very elegant and smart kid. True, there really are many shameless people in the world, even in this novel. But Lipe's not done yet. She compliments everyone for raising their children wonderfully, but sometimes it might be better to be on the same wavelength as their child. And so she proceeds to tell them what they're lacking. That's right, Lipe. Show them whose daughter you are. This time, Lipe points out the noble lady's child, who's 2 years younger than Lipe. It's normal for a 3-year-old kid to not be used to etiquette. If she has high etiquette as a mother, it may cause problems with her child's growth. So it's better to love her child as she is now because the time will come when she'll eventually learn about it. Everyone is shocked to know how well-spoken this child is. As Lipe excuses herself, everyone's opinion about her mother changes as the ladies flock toward Mrs. Rustichel. Meanwhile, as Lipe wanders around, she comes across Mrs. Sarlino and her daughter. Lipe knows that something is off. Does that mean that the daughter didn't die yet? When Angelina, daughter of Lady Sarlino, sits comfortably on the couch, Lipe comes up to her and introduces herself. Lipe notices that Angelina seems like she doesn't like people, and the fact she chose to sit in the corner and accidentally introduces herself as you, our lady baby, already has doubts about this little girl. But no matter how she looks at her, she doesn't look like a boy. But the way she sits, she somehow resembles her brother, and all those blisters on her hands are not normal for a girl. And so, Lipe comes up with an excuse for staring at her longer. She then compliments her dress, but Angelina isn't even responding to that. How very strange indeed. Perhaps... Suddenly, Lipe asks her what dresses she likes. Angelina seems startled by this question. Unable to give a proper answer, she then points at Lipe's bow, saying that she likes clothes that have those decorations attached. Lipe smiles. She already knows. A smile forms on young Calliope's face as she regards her new friend. Based on her intuition alone, she deduces that the supposed girl in front of her isn't Angelina Sarlino, but in fact her twin brother Julian. Of course, it seems very peculiar for a boy to dress and act like a girl this early on, and what's even more, even Calliope can't remember in her past life whether or not Julian also did so. Though admittedly, she isn't much of an outgoing person. But still, if Julian is dressing up like his dead twin sister as a kid, then that would also explain why Calliope didn't see that much of him in her previous life too. And with that sad fact, it must be because Julian has been so deeply traumatized by his twin sister's death that he decided to live Angelina's life. Oh, I feel really bad for Julian. What's more alarming of Julian's current state is if he's left alone, he will surely grow up to be a killer. Though of course, with her father's teaching ringing in her ears, Calliope decides to befriend Julian all the same, without making a mention of his sister or the fact that she knows his secret. In between little bits of awkwardness, they manage to actually enjoy each other's company. That is, until a certain boy with light blonde hair and purple eyes approaches the two girls. It seems he's intent on making trouble, as right off the bat, he bluntly asks Angelina whether or not his twin brother has just died, all while wearing a smug look on his face. Fortunately, Calliope is there, and she herself, despite being technically the youngest one there, speaks calmly for the Lady Sarlino. And she even chastised the young boy for his demeanor, calling him a child. Even though that comment is true regardless, because, they're all kids, Calliope certainly clapped back against the bully. Since he very well is one, he proceeds to act more childlike, though not after Calliope questions why he would ever bring up Angelina's dead brother. Right now, Calliope is in a stalemate with the boy who intruded her time with Julian, aka Angelina. Whispers and stares from the crowd start to surface, as somehow, a 5-year-old girl has calmly taken a hold of the situation and shown her mature side against such a sensitive issue. Of course, The boy tries to defend himself as best he can, frantically saying that he was only curious, so that's why he asked that of Angelina. The boy feels the immense pressure coming from the crowd and from little Calliope herself. Though he may not have intended to be hurtful, he still manages to do exactly that when he insensitively asks about her dead sibling. But Calliope, without a single trace of malice in her eyes, only bids the boy to never speak of such things. Anyway, Calliope's example is perhaps for the best, as Julian, under the guise of Angelina, who has just been observing the confrontation at the side, admits to himself that as soon as he heard the boy talk, nothing but malice surfaces from his emotions, enough for him to want to rip his mouth off. Even as a child, those thoughts are scary. Thankfully, Calliope's words gave some sort of enlightenment for Julian. If she can change the situation with just a few words without violence, then perhaps even he can become like Calliope. And so Angelina decides to do what Julian did to her and asks an insensitive question. Still, Calliope knows the reason as to why the boy was so intrigued and trying to get attention from the Lady Sarlino. So she bade him to at least show maturity at accepting his own mistakes. Though, Lipe wonders what would the boy think when he finds out the girl he likes is actually a boy. Nonetheless, the boy actually sincerely apologizes, and afterwards, they learn that he is, in fact, Hildert Simona. Now with their confrontation finally out of the way, Calliope seems to recognize the name Hildert from her past. As it turns out, the boy, who is actually nice by the way, becomes the head of the Aprax Palace at just 19 years old. Though quite young, he soon proves his worthiness of his title as a high-ranking official in the center of the Empire's political strategy. Yet still, Calliope notes how hints of his arrogance are already present at such a young age, though him apologizing makes it all the better. Lipe is certainly rational enough to recognize sincerity. And so, Calliope's attitude towards him does a complete 180, with her actually smiling and talking gently at him, something Hildert notices. Being the proper lady that she is, which seems like a cheat code at this point in her life, Calliope says that she now treats Hildert as a mature person, not a child, simply because he is able to recognize and own up to his faults. A clever way to manipulate a child, if I say so myself. This behavior leaves a significant impact on the young boy, and with his solemn face, he actually tries to ask permission to call Calliope by her nickname, until the latter was dragged away by Angelina. Perhaps Hildert was trying to impress her and not Angelina, as Calliope had previously thought. Anyway, it seems that Lipe's good behavior has managed to rub off on Angelina as the two try some sweets for tea. Although, she sometimes thinks that if she didn't know any better, she wouldn't suspect it was Julian at all. Still, she doesn't confront him about it, and they go about their way. Anyway, it seems that Angelina has a bit of a sweet tooth and tries to get Lipe to eat macarons as well. Even though she herself isn't into sweets, Lipe accepts them out of kindness. It's also cute how Angelina tries to pretend that she doesn't like them when Lipe finally admits that she isn't that into sweets. But since she's on a mission to be nice, Calliope ate the dessert anyway. Meanwhile, it seems that Lady Calliope has been making waves during the social gathering too. It turns out Hildert's mother was so impressed by Lipe's good manners, even Lucius as well when he was smaller, that she tries to ask Lady Rustichel to tutor her child as a favor. It seems that the famous Marchioness Simona, Hildert's mother, who had asked for Lady Rustichel's guidance on raising her son, has a bit of an interesting rise to her current social standing. Working at the Aprax Palace when she was younger, her undeniable charms made it a point that she stood out in spite of her relatives being only viscounts. However, the famous lady had a tremendous change starting when she fell in love. Apart from not being snobby, she even started to attend social gatherings of lower class standings, and had in fact acted modest, and not in the elegant way she's known for. With all that being said, Lady Rustichel knows that a lot of other wives would be delighted to make the Marchioness, and it's good that Calliope got complimented because of her manners. But she still thinks that being asked to be a tutor is a bit sudden and perhaps a bit too much. The Marchioness manages to pick up on Lady Rustichel's hesitance, and so she instead asks that Calliope visit their home instead, under the pretense that the child would benefit from the meeting. But what Marchioness Simona actually wants is the fact that Hildert actually listens to Calliope and makes him have a change of heart. On the other hand, Lady Rustichel's protective mother mode is fully on display at the thought of her only daughter being pushed into an acquaintance with a boy that early on. We stan a protective mama indeed. But Lady Simona, who to her credit is actually good at reading people, picks up on this as well and offers to invite both Robel and Lucius as well. Sure that no one will be able to get through Calliope with her brothers there as a door, and with Lady Simona's eager expression on her face, Lady Rustichel finally agrees. Meanwhile, the topic of the conversation, Calliope, runs into Hal. She almost slips, saying that she remembers him even though the last time they saw each other was when she was a baby, but Lipe still manages an excuse. Nonetheless, Hal finds himself very fond of Lipe because she treats him like a child, despite her unusual maturity at her age. Hal again admits that he's being forced to babysit because he has a lot of siblings. Way too much for his mother to handle, in fact. But still, with an air of maturity in her smiles, Lipe manages to change Hal's perspective about the whole thing by saying his mother, Lady Alpinus, must be very happy to have such considerate children if Hal's doing that. Oh, I love that Lipe's sweet words can easily sway people. The boy gets shocked at how composed and ladylike Lipe is at such a young age, leading him to loudly wish for his siblings to be like her instead. Hal also assumes that perhaps the reason why Lipe hasn't been allowed to go out that much is because of that very same maturity. Nonetheless, he asks whether or not Lipe can come visit at his place, with a dazzling yet somehow charmingly laid-back smile written right across his face. When Lipe wonders if he only means a visit, Hal makes it clear that he truly wishes the lady would live at his household, even musing the idea of exchanging some of his siblings to do so. Not being a very good big brother there, Hal. Anyhow, Lipe tries to deny the request, saying that she likes living with her older brothers. And yet Hal doesn't give up, saying that he does treat her better than them, and even calls Lipe a sister, again, along with his charming smile. However, in another matter, that very same smile allows Lipe to figure out how Hal gets into a lot of trouble with the ladies in her past life, up to the point where even if he doesn't do anything, the flirty nature of his gets him slapped by more than one girl during social gatherings. Anyway, back to the present, along with Angelina's sudden arrival to glare at Hal, and with Lipe's own reasoning, Hal finally stops asking her to become his sister. Although he does admit that he's extremely jealous of Lucius for having a sibling like Lipe. And Lipe, on the other hand, finds herself with a feeling of contentment because Hal still thinks of his best friend whenever he talks. Speaking of Lucius, he arrives just in time to slap away Hal's hand as he tries to touch Lipe. Although he's got nothing against his best friend, he still bids Lipe to stay away from Hal, despite the latter waving back happily at them as he gets toppled by his many siblings. The sudden warning from her brother Lucius about ignoring Hal makes Lipe confused, simply because he's just a friend and Lucius's best friend at that. However, simply because Lucius tends to become a little bit overdramatic when protecting his little sister, he somehow comes to the conclusion that Lipe must have fallen in love with Hal when she supposedly takes his side defending him. Thankfully, Lucius's expression softens when being introduced to Angelina, as he lets down his guard when Lipe is around girls. Oh, if you only knew, Lucius. Still, it seems his intuition knows a whole lot more than what he does, as Lucius feels a tingle of jealousy when he sees Lipe holding Angelina's hands, as the latter hid from him behind his sister's back. But not wanting to intrude further on Lipe and her new friend, Lucius excuses himself. Though not before assuring Lipe that he'll be fine and have plenty to do because Hal is there. Ever the gentleman, our Lucius. However, Lipe gets a bit nervous when her brother mentions something about Hal. If only she can see the malicious smile Lucius forms when looking for Hal, she'd know she was right. It didn't take long for him to find Hal as well, as the latter is still being pestered by his siblings. They scrambled away from Hal just as quickly, though, as if they could feel the angry aura emanating from their brother's best friend. Even Hal seems scared at Lucius's arrival. At first, Hal tries to defend himself, but Lucius is adamant that because Lipe is special, no matter the age, people will fall in love with her. As Hal puts it, Lucius does seem to go a bit crazy for Lipe. Anyway, Hal declares he likes older women, and even though Lucius insults him about it, he seems to drop his accusations nonetheless. Rather, he instead bids his best friend to continue talking about that when he's properly fallen in love. But Hal's only reply is that there are many girls, each with their own type of beauty. Lucius calls him crazy for that. Anyway, Hal seems to think much about Lucius' words about falling in love. He looks at Lipe, who had rejoined the gathering with Angelina. A wave of sadness covers Hal's face, just as he admits to his best friend that he hasn't truly felt love from anyone. In order to clear his sudden confession to an otherwise surprised Lucius, Hal states that he has hardly ever loved that many people since he rarely falls for them as well. And so, the young boy breaks down rather pitifully, simply because a lot of people assume he's in love with or trying to get with a lot of girls. But as Lucius plainly puts it, it's Hal's own problem if he's ignorant about the fact that unbeknownst to him, His naturally flirty attitude is the cause of his image problem that adds too much to his worries. Though he doesn't want to admit it either, Lucius knows that Hal's good looks are dangerous to say the least, and so he again bids his friend to stay away from his sister. Lucius sure is protective of Lipe, as he should. Hal, on the other hand, finds it confusing as in the first place, he's been hanging out with him since they were little kids, and Lucius only changed when Lipe was born. Still, he finds that he's now more interested in seeing Lipe simply because of Lucius's added warning. Kind of like a forbidden fruit type of situation. Uh-oh, you better be careful, Hal. With that, he leaves Lucius by teasing him that Lipe herself asks to see him, so he'll be visiting their estate anyway. Meanwhile, in what seems to be a dream, or perhaps a certain memory of her past life, Lipe comes into consciousness of her older body, waking up to the cries of a young boy outside, crying over his dead mother's corpse. Rushing outside to help, Lipe is stopped by a knight. A knight who, despite himself wanting to help because he made an oath to his daughter before she died, is bound by duty to remove Lipe from anything dangerous during the war. Lipe is thankful for the knight's kindness at protecting her, yet still, she doesn't see any point in living, much less keeping safe. Her family is gone. She has experienced betrayal, and what's more, she dreads the fact that she's still alive. And so, amidst the cruelty of life, she tries to convince her lone knight that neither dying nor injuries are the most immediate danger to her right now. But she is losing herself. In spite of everything she's been through, Calliope is still determined to reach out to anybody whenever they need help. She is so kind. Our Lipe deserves the world. Her determination is very evident in her eyes, so much so that the knight shielding her way out flinches. If that's not enough still, she declares that even if she dies, she will help that child. But you have to be careful too, Lipe. But suddenly, a loud banging sound echoes through the night. As the knight quickly moves Lipe out of the way, all she sees is a crater seemingly formed from an explosive, materialized right where the child and his dead mother lay. Oh no, how tragic! Witnessing this must be so painful for Lipe. Lipe sees there's no chance at helping the poor family as she grabs a tiny scruff of clothing floating in the air. She tries to apologize for being stubborn despite not actually being able to help. But the knight replies that if her kindness is considered stubborn, then he's protecting her out of his own stubbornness as well. Nonetheless, the knight asks them to leave, but in order to provide relief to his master, he asks if Lipe wants to bury the mother and child before they go. And so the two make their way to a cemetery, and Lipe even dirties her hands at such attempt to lay these strangers to rest. Apparently, she feels ashamed to have such undamaged hands despite the ongoing war. The rain pours down heavily right as they place the last stones on the strangers' graves, and soon after, Lipe decides to sing. A song, as the knight notes, isn't to send the dead happily off, but to express her anger and sympathy for those departed. Truly, the very essence of a requiem song. Little did they know that after she finishes her song, a mysterious woman appears, along with the daylight after the rain. She curiously asks why Lipe would sing to the grave of strangers, to which the latter's reply is so that they'll at least depart happily. Kindness seems to emerge from Lipe as she stares at the sky for the departed she sang her song for. All the while, the mysterious lady who appeared before them stares intently at her. The white-haired stranger comments how Lipe must have regrets, to which the lady of House Rustichel's only reply is she no longer knows if regret is what she can call it. The stranger approaches, and the knight tries all he can to defend his lady, but she pays him no heed. Instead, she directs her attention at Lipe, determined to give her a favor in exchange for the beautiful song she just sang. She comes even closer to the point that the knight's sword almost touches her chin, but all she does is to praise Lipe's voice and says she'll make sure that Lipe will go to a happy place this time. With that, a burst of magic erupts from the stranger as a blue magic circle emerges from her feet. The lady bids her to sing one last time, and Lipe's consciousness fades to black. Now back to the present, Lipe thinks hard about the woman who gave her a second chance, and about the song that allowed her to do so. The song was from a woman of common standing, a maid who put all her emotions into one song. Lipe thinks singing might attract the stranger again, and so she tries to sing for the first time. Although the only person she attracts is her nanny, who, despite praising her voice, says that happy songs are more suited for her. Lipe hugs her nanny out of her nostalgic scent, and the two discuss how the young lady manages to know of such a song. Lipe almost slips up by saying she heard the folk song a long time ago, but manages to escape from her blunder. What she didn't escape, however, was the following morning, the nanny happily relayed to the rest of the family about Lipe's angelic voice when singing, sending the family into a Lipe-induced frenzy. Everyone is eager to hear Lipe sing, even her mother, who usually takes her side in matters like this, so Lipe has no choice but to sing. Immediately afterwards, a deafening silence ensues, mainly due to the shock from the rest of the family, who conclude that Lipe must not have been human to have such a voice. But as it turns out, word about Lipe's golden voice travels fast, as even Hal arrives at the estate in order to see for himself. It turns out that the reason as to why Hal knows of Lipe's singing is because of Robel and Lucius not being able to keep their excitement at bragging about their little sister's achievement. In truth, Lucius had a little bit more restraint, but still, even he won't allow his sister to be compared to a human anymore. Anyhow, Hal urges Lipe to sing to him too, but the latter is still. She's still embarrassed at singing folk songs when her family always doesn't specify it as such whenever they tell her stories. Still, Hal perseveres and instead tries to bribe Lipe with high-class hazelnut chocolates, though Lipe calls him out on his blackmailing tactics. He laughs it off because of how mature she sounds just now, mainly because he finds it funny how a child like that even knows the word blackmail. But still, he even peels the chocolate himself and feeds it to Lipe in hopes that she would agree. Unfortunately, she didn't accept it anyway, but she sure did like the chocolate, so much so that she takes another piece from Hal as confiscation, which only makes the boy laugh even more. But right when he is again about to ask Lipe to visit their house, he hears Lucius commanding him to stop before he sees him menacingly staring at him from a distance. As Harrison and Lipe are talking, Harrison notices that someone is intently staring at him. It's Lucius. Enraged from what he's seeing, he immediately walks towards the both of them. He's pissed off. He kind of regrets not kicking Harrison out of the door. The both of them end up arguing, which makes Lipe think that they're having a fight because of her. Looking sad, she asks if they had a fight. She looks so cute with her doll face. They immediately act as if they did not argue. They look at her with a smile on their face and assure her that they're okay. But knowing Lipe, she won't believe it right away. The way they fight and the way her brother Lucius talks harshly to Harrison, she knows that they're not okay. My dear, that's how their friendship works. So she observes them with doubt on her little face and wonders why they're yelling at each other, just like what happened at the last tea party. Harrison tells her the truth. They fight, but they're not going to say it since it's pretty trivial to the point that it's shameful. However, her suspicions don't end there. She even wonders why Harrison is in their house if they're in a fight, leaving him no choice but to make an excuse that he's there to give Lucius a chocolate. Finally, Lipe forces the both of them to apologize to one another. Lucius normally won't do something like it, but knowing how much he adores his sister, he will definitely do anything Lipe wants him to do. However, it doesn't end there. Lipe looks at Harrison and Lucius. Her face is sparkling with cuteness as she smiles and asks them to hug each other. Their eyes ball. They are in shock and they are both embarrassed to do it, but they have no choice. He'll really do anything for his sister. So cute. All of a sudden, Lucius holds Harrison's hand and hugs him. A hug full of disgust, anger, and embarrassment. But little Lipe doesn't even notice it though. Instead, she looks satisfied. After that, she cutely waves to her brother to come near her and hand him a chocolate. A way for her to congratulate her brother for making up with Harrison. But instead of being happy, he looks frustrated while Harrison's laughing at the back. Lucius's face and Harrison's reaction is hilarious. On a sunny day, in the middle of sipping tea while enjoying the nice day, Lipe's mother shares that she got a reply from the Sereno family saying that they are delighted to meet Lipe and that Angelica needs a girlfriend. Lipe's mom is overjoyed that her daughter finally made a friend. A friend? Lipe even thinks that it's more like a babysitter, but she doesn't really mind at all since kids are cute. Jade Rayente, a man who graduated from Darwin Academy, is top of his class and a prodigy of this century. A lot of families with children are trying to hire him because of how extraordinary his teachings are. He is always entrusted with many children from high ordinary families, but now it angers him to be tutoring someone from low-class nobility. If only he hadn't accepted that recommendation from Marchioness Simona. Sitting in the library while looking at Lipe and Robel, he then assigned a hard question for Robel to answer despite knowing that he was slower than the others. After seeing how hard it is for Robel to answer these questions, Jade laughs and proceeds to insult them, saying things that they're a weapon family and really does not expect anything from them at all other than swinging the sword all day. The discrimination is as clear as water. Bet you can't even do what they do. All of a sudden, Lipe asks Robel for the paper and answered it. Jade smirks, thinking what a 5-year-old girl like her could do. The moment Lipe passes the paper, Jade's in shock. It's all correct. Lipe asks him why he is in shock when he asks for those questions to be answered. Yes, go show him, Lipe. Lipe looks at him intently and tells him that he's right. They're a weapon family and they never lost a fight. While he's Baron Ranty's 3rd son and won't be able to inherit money. That's why accomplishments are the most important thing for him. Almost as if he's trying to gain a noble's title using his power like an upstart. Well, he is an upstart. Bro just got butchered. Lipe then changes her reaction and proceeds to act sweetly, saying that she read all of these from the books and was truly excited, but it seems like in reality, Jade doesn't even understand the basics. Jade's shakingly furious. He then reasoned out that when he was Robel's age, he already knew how to answer those questions and were even taking the harder ones. Why does he act immaturely when he's a teacher? With an innocent and curious expression, she looks at Jade and asks that he must have also known how to cut stacks like tofu when he was still at that age. This made Jade even more furious, which made him shout and swear at her. He is enraged when Robel asks him things about swordsmanship, but then Lipe whispers that he shouldn't ask him things like that since she doubts he ever cut a hay bale in his life. Since when she asks him about swordsmanship, he only brags about his skills in multiplication and division as a child. Lipe looks at Jade while still whispering at Robel and says that when people continue to brag about his past, it means that they have nothing to brag about now, and it's pitiful. The way Robel believed in this? Hilarious! Lipe then smiles and asks Jade if the one who tells him that Robel is slower than most of them is Marchioness Simona. He hurriedly tells her that Marchioness Simona has nothing to do with it. She stands up and smiles at him, telling him that she knows Lady Simona won't say such a thing. She looks at him and thanks him for his hard work since the class is over. Jade is enraged. How dare that kid do that to him? Lipe isn't done with him yet. She continuously insults him and his status, which results in Jade acting as if he's going to hit Lipe. How can he lay hands on a child? Ugh! But before his hands can lay onto Lipe's skin, Robel jumps and stops him. However, Lipe asks his brother to let go. Lipe walks towards Jade as she whispers that his manners are pitiful, trying to injure a helpless child and not even apologize. He should be ashamed of himself. Since he grew up in the countryside and has only graduated from the academy, she doubts he even knows the real world. Serves him right. At Lady Simona's tea party, people including Lady Simona herself seem so fond of talking about how adorable, polite, and smart Lipe herself is. She is even the reason for the drastic changes in Hildert's attitude. A few moments later, Jade Riente arrives and greets Lady Simona. He sees Lipe from afar and his reaction eventually changes. But then it goes back to normal as he talks to Lady Simona. Lady Simona then asks how the torturing with the Rustichel went. Jade then starts to say that Lipe seems to already know about division and multiplication. This amazes Lady Simona and the other guests, admiring how amazing she is. However, to take revenge, he starts to lie, but then every time he says something unbelievable, Lady Simona and the other guests think that it's such a good thing and that Lipe is such an amazing kid. Not until he says something about Madame Rustichel, accusing that he had taught Lipe those things beforehand to save their pride. This makes Lady Simona furious, since she knows that the Rustichel family would never do something like that. A red-haired countess named Katana somehow understands Jade's point. This also made the other guests think that it's odd for a kid like that to be able to do such a thing at a young age, and that it's possible for Lady Rustichel to teach her daughter these things. All of a sudden, Hildert, together with Lipe and Lucius, came. Hildert is somehow mad. He thinks that those people are being rude towards Lady Rustichel, to think that they judge a situation with only conjecture. Lady Simona, who's watching the situation, somehow feels proud to see how much her son has grown. The moment she sees Calliope, she feels sad. She wants to create good memories for her, but it seems like she's created a bad scene for the children. Lipe then looks at Hildert and gives him a sweet smile, saying that it's okay. She's so sweet. She then tells him that if there's a mistake, it could be that the people who are there are provided with false information, which results in false judgment. Jade flinches hearing these things. Lucius then says that he finds it truly strange that a brilliant teacher like Jade can't actually judge Lipe's level of intellect. Jade starts to tremble. Lucius is throwing back the same words that he said that day. He is in deep embarrassment. Guests are starting to think badly of him. Jade then proceeds to tell Lucius that he wasn't there when that happened, and that sometimes he needs to stop siding with his sister and punish her accordingly for what she did. To his surprise, Lipe holds her brother's hands and agrees to what Jade says. She knows that Lucius says those things because he cares for her. She looks at him and gives him a sweet smile, saying that she's moved by it. What an ideal sibling he is! To turn the tables to her side, Lipe then tells her brother that she did not tell him what happened that day since she didn't want him to worry. She acts scared and confused as she says that she doesn't understand what she did wrong for Jade to react to her that way. There, she spills that Jade tried to hit her. Luckily, her brother Robel was there to protect her. All of them are in shock and furious. How can he do that to a little kid? And just with that, Jade is kicked out of the party and no longer welcome to Simona's house and even to the other nobles. That's what you get for messing with her. After that, Lady Simona asks Lipe for forgiveness. She has no idea that Jade is like that. Lipe understands and accepts the apology. It isn't Lady Simona's fault at all. Still at the party, when Lipe sees Lady Catena, she greets her and bows at her, which kind of shocks Lady Catena. She doesn't know that Lipe knows her when Lipe realizes that she hurriedly made an excuse, saying that there's no other beautiful lady with crimson hair and blue eyes except Lady Catena. This definitely got Lady Catena, so she blushes the moment she hears those words. The truth is, Lady Catena is the vice captain of the Red Dragon Knights. That's why she knows her, and if Lipe gets close to her and befriends her, she will be a great asset. Lipe's eyes stare at someone else, Lady Saharne. Who is she? To fill her curiosity, Lady Catena asks Lipe how she's so good at division. The other children her age won't even have any idea when it comes to those things. But as Lady Catena thought of it, there are children similar to Lipe at the Great Sage's Tower. There are prodigies among children who are naturally gifted in magic and who comprehend information faster than the others. All of a sudden, Lipe spills the truth that she knew fractions and divisions when she sees her nanny cutting strawberry tart. Soon after, she read about decimals and fractions in a book that her brother Robel was reading. They are all amazed and in shock hearing all of this from a young child like her. As Lady Catena assesses the situation, with Lipe thinking of new concepts by observing her daily life, she can really be a great magician in the future. A lot of magicians who have thought of new concepts by observing their daily life became high-ranking sages, and there's a possibility that Lipe could be one too. She will be! All of them are still fond of Lipe and continue talking to her. Lipe even shares with them that her brother Lu always reads her a book every night. She smiles at them, looking so happy, while sharing that she's happy and thankful for her brother, which surprises Lucius. They are so sweet. After all of that, Lady Simona asks them to go and have fun with Hildert, since it can be boring talking with adults. When they go there, Hildert is still mad at the teacher for trying to hit Lipe. Although he's mad, he still asks Lipe to stop calling Hildert a bastard since it's not good. When Lucius notices the closeness between the two, he starts competing with Hildert, which leads them to an argument. They only stop once Lipe asks them. She then asks Hildert to go for a while since she has something to discuss with her brother, and that she'll just find him when they're done. Once they're alone, Lucius is frustrated because of what he hears. He can't believe that someone tried to hit his sister. She's too precious and doesn't deserve to get shouted at or treated so poorly. Seeing the anger and frustration on her brother's face, Lipe is touched. She hugs her brother and tells him that he's precious too, so he shall not die. Lucius is shocked, so he comforts and assures Lipe that he won't die. Liar. That's what Lipe thought. That's what he said the last time, and yet he died. That's why this time it will be Lipe's turn to protect him. There's no way they'll die. The pain in Lipe's eyes is unexplainable. Oh. Robel flashes out of nowhere. Furious, Lucius then goes to him and asks why he did not tell him about what happened to Lipe. But Lipe stops him, saying that she asked him not to tell anyone. Lucius asks her to not hide anything anymore because the more they hide it, the more they will worry and wonder if she's really okay. She then smiles. It warms her heart to see how much they care about her. However, besides worrying them, there's another reason she didn't tell them. She's worried about how their parents will react if she tells them. Though it would be easy for their family to punish Jade, he already built connections with higher nobles. He can easily gain pity from them. Although nobles won't do anything to their family immediately, they won't have a positive view of them either. Back at the tea party, Lady Rustichel arrives and is shocked by the warm welcome from the guests. Guests ask her a lot of questions about her children, which she kindly answers. It seems like those people are so fond of her son and daughter to the point that they even consider making their children friends with Lady Rustichel's kids. Well, they should. They won't surely regret it. Lipe, Robel, and Lucius are walking towards their mom. Lipe hugs her mom right away, seeing how sweet and adorable they are. The other noble guests are so happy just seeing them. Lipe thinks of finding Hildert when she accidentally trips, causing her to be in pain. Then, all of a sudden, she feels someone walking towards her. As the person slowly approaches her, she hears a soft voice asking if she's okay. She feels nervous, as if cold water is splashed on her. It is Lady Saharne, and the same feelings from back then that she's been trying to hide reappear. Still, the same as back then when she was sitting on the sofa drinking tea gracefully while Lipe was on the floor begging for her to help her buy her mother's medicine. Lipe's crying. She doesn't want anything else but help. But behind Lady Saharne's gentle face is a cruel woman who tells her that she won't be getting any help and that her mother will die. She was devastated. All of the hopes she had were shattered. She had nothing left. Now in the present, she's still tense to face her as the past keeps on haunting her. She tries to smile to hide the pain and nervousness that she feels and thanks Lady Saharne. When Saharne leaves, she's catching her breath as she forgot to breathe because of that intense situation. She quickly left and went towards the pond crying about how hard it was for her before, how she was deprived of help and forced to accept the death of her mom. How dear Lipe, you've been through a lot. Watching the pond as she's crying, Lipe stops as she's afraid that someone might hear her. When she walked around, she saw a handkerchief made of Renante silk, a limited silk that even the royal family can only get a few lengths. When she goes back to her brothers, they are all worried and hurriedly asks where she went, but as usual, she makes an excuse that she's chasing some birds. The three of them have been making some silly jokes for a while when Lipe remembers the handkerchief. She then asks her brothers if they saw someone who came out of the forest, but they saw no one. Meanwhile, Hildert is with three noisy kids. He looks kinda pissed since he thinks that he shouldn't be playing with those young brats since he already considers himself an adult that's experiencing the sweet taste of love. No, you're still a baby. When he is about to shout to the kids, he sees Lipe, so instead of shouting at them, he plays with them. Seeing that makes Lipe think that he's actually good with kids. Lipe gives him a sweet smile. Running towards her with a sweet smile, Hildert then asks her if she wants to play with them. They can play house if she wants. She appreciates the offer, but she shouldn't be hogging him for herself. Ouch, rejected. Hearing that from her, Hildert dashes away from her as his face is obviously blushing. Seeing him running away makes Lipe think that he really wants to play house with her. Looking at Hildert, who's running away, she sees him go towards a handsome boy with white hair, Asterius Castillos. The Simonas and the Castillos are close family friends, but she has never seen Asterius in high-class gatherings before. As Lipe realizes that it's none of her business, she turns around and leaves. At the house, Lipe's nanny serves her a huge strawberry tart with a lot of strawberries. Her nanny excitedly tells her that she made those because it's strawberry season. But Lipe knows that it's not the exact reason. She knows that her nanny made it because she imitated the way her brother Robel talked when she told her nanny about the big strawberry tart. But despite that, she still appreciates her nanny's effort and will share the tart with the others. Every once in 2 weeks, the maids gather together. Earlier that night, during the meeting, the maids noticed that the maid from the Solino house didn't come again. She's not only absent for 1 or 2 meetings, it's more than that. A couple of weeks ago, the Solino attended a social gathering, so some of the maids thought that their maids would attend the meeting. Someone from the maid shushes the others and asks the others to just welcome them if they'd come. During the meeting, Olive, the maid from the Simona family, shares how much her young master's attitude has changed, assuming that in a few years, his popularity will explode and reach every lady in the area. But then Marina from the Castillo estate thinks that the young master could never rival her young master, since at 8 years old, he already has a perfect face and everyone is captivated by him in a social gathering. And just with that, the rest of the night is filled with them arguing about which master is better. No need to argue. Both kids are good looking and kind. Lucius is once again annoyed with Harrison's constant teasing, especially when he reminds him of how he fought with his friend because of a chocolate that Lipe gave. When Harrison tells him that he was invited by Lady Rustichel to their place to play, Lucius is outraged. He even plans to learn when exactly this will take place so he can take his sister out of their house beforehand. Unfortunately for you, Lucius, Harrison is going right that instant. He can only watch in anger as his friend goes off to see his sister. Poor Lucius has to train all day while his friend spends time with little Lipe. Who wouldn't be jealous? Harrison is also bringing his little sister along to meet Calliope. Elphiny Alpinus may be hot-tempered, but he thinks that it's a good idea that the two girls become friends. When they arrive, Lipe happily greets them, welcoming them into her home. Elphanie, despite her fierceness, can't help but be dazzled by the glow that Lipe seems to be emitting. She tries to convince herself that the girl is not that special at all, but she is instantly taken aback by Lipe's overall pleasant disposition. She even takes her hand to welcome her warmly. Harrison, of course, can't help but interrupt, complaining that Lipe is yet to greet him. He even boasts that he brought all her favorite things. Lipe tells him that her brother Luce will come home later, but Harrison, with a fond look on his face, tells her that he came to see her. Lipe, for a second, is frozen after hearing Harrison's sweet words. However, she merely thanks him politely. Her reaction disappoints Harrison because he wants to see her flustered. He tells her that he has something else that will make her happy. But once again, her reaction remains easygoing, much to Harrison's dismay. The two are left to play together, so Lipe leads Elphanie to her room. She wants to get on the stubborn girl's good side, so she shows her a stuffed bunny. However, the girl is quick to express her dislike of playing with toys, even insulting Lipe for being a baby. Well, someone obviously needs an attitude adjustment. When Lipe is not affected by her words, Elphanie calls her weird and idiotic. Lipe is quiet for a moment, trying to understand just why Elphanie is so angry. Elphanie is actually in despair, knowing that deep inside she's upset because, unlike Lipe, everybody else sees her as a tomboy. It doesn't really matter if she acts like Lipe at all. However, to her surprise, Lipe makes it clear that she doesn't have to change at all, for she is fine just the way she is. Elphanie can't believe that despite her unpleasant personality and the fact that she just called Lipe stupid just minutes ago, Lipe is still smiling and assuring her. Even though she is acting annoyed, she tells Lipe to call her by her name rather than her title. Wanting to have an older sister figure in her life, Lipe addresses her as older sister Elphanie instead. Harrison arrives to give the girls some beverages, enthusiastically asking them if they're having fun. Lipe is mesmerized by the iced chocolate given to her. This is what Harrison was talking about that will make her happy. When she tastes the dessert, her eyes sparkle when its deliciousness reaches her taste buds. Since Elphanie is known to not care for sweets as well, Lady Rustichel wants to give her special orange iced tea. Lipe reminds Harrison that she doesn't like sweets as well, but when she looks down, her glass of iced chocolate is already empty, and Harrison teases her for it. Leaning close to her, he tells her that he made it especially for her. Surprisingly, Lipe is quite flustered as she thanks him for this. Harrison blushes as he feels something strange, deeming her cuteness as something dangerous. Oh, kids, this is too early for this! Grow up faster first! Later on, Lipe is watching the Alpinist siblings' adorable, albeit somewhat violent, interaction. She notes how close they are and how happy she is that she is now the same way with her brothers. Suddenly, Robel entered brusquely, earning a glare from Lipe. He then immediately rushes to his sister to give her so much affection. However, he soon realizes that he recognized the girl there. Lipe ends up utterly confused to see Robel and Elphanie pointing accusatory fingers at each other, wondering how they even knew each other. But then it turns out that despite recognizing her, Robel has forgotten Elphanie's name. Elphanie then refuses to tell him her name, labeling him an idiot for all to see. Robel, who doesn't want his precious sister to think that he's an idiot, starts arguing with Elphanie. Robel ends up declaring that he will prove his intellect by showing Elphanie his great spirit, so he leads the girls outside to defeat the idiot allegation. Lipe can only watch with quiet apprehension as the two prance out to settle their argument. Harrison is taken aback when he feels Lipe tugging on his sleeves. Thinking that she wants to play with him, he enthusiastically pats her head, ready to comply anytime. But Lipe is interested in something else. She wants to know who is powerful enough to cover up the murder of a noble. She wants to know who can manipulate the public's opinion so much that the death of her family will be covered up. As expected, Harrison is shocked that Lipe will be interested in this. Lipe explains that she has read this topic from studying history. Harrison, of course, does not fully believe that she is merely curious, but he answers her cautiously. After all, for him, Lipe is still an innocent budding flower. He suggests that it can be someone high-ranking, such as a clergy. However, he is surprised once again when Lipe asks about the leaders of the underworld. Harrison is in disbelief that Lipe is asking the names of the families who can have that power, worrying that the girl is thinking of something dangerous. With a grin on her face, she tells him that someone who is thinking about such a thing will not be talking about it. Lipe comments that Harrison is quite naive for thinking that she is thinking about such a thing. he exclaims in protest, but then she clarifies that being naive is different from being dumb. Her statement freezes Harrison on the spot, and he has to physically shake himself out of his stupor, disbelieving that he blanks out because of a 5-year-old. He then proceeds to answer Lipe, saying that a cover-up such as that will depend on the status of the murdered aristocrats. He thinks that Lipe cannot understand the topic beyond that, but he is once again surprised by the girl's next question. She wants to know how powerful a person can be if it was someone from her family who was murdered. This unexpected question causes silence between them for a second. It is broken when Harrison bursts out laughing, thinking that a nightmare has probably caused this line of questioning. Lipe still insists on getting answers, so Harrison, despite his laughter, tells her that it is possible for the two dukedoms and that not every Marquise family can pull off such a thing. Suddenly, she questions if it is possible for Count Serenette's family. Harrison replies that Count Serenette's family is no match for Count Rohan's power at the moment. Harrison further explains that even an extremely powerful duke will have difficulty evading the surveillance magic, as well as the all-seeing clear eyes of Count Castillo. In the end, the two of them agree that anyone powerful will always have someone who will stop them from doing such an act. However, it is a different story for someone with less power who receives support from someone else. Lipe and Harrison are still discussing Lipe's question. She concludes that noble status doesn't really matter because they can just conceal the murder, and it is even possible that someone is blackmailing someone for this to work. So far, they assume that the highest noble priest and the underworld are the most powerful people that can get away with killing a noble. However, there is also one other prospect: the imperial family. These two are acting like little detectives. How adorable! Harrison then reminds her that she has yet to tell him the reason why she is so interested in this topic. She still insists that it is due to her study of history. Even though he doesn't believe her, he squished her cheeks as compensation for sharing what he knows. To say that she is annoyed is an understatement, but Harrison is more than happy for his compensation. Now that Harrison is 12 years old, he has started receiving letters, which means he knows high-class nobles' functions. So she asks him if he has received a letter from a daughter of a Marquess family. At first, he denies that he has any interest in interacting with young ladies yet. Lipe is quite doubtful of this, considering how much of a ladies' man Harrison is in her past life. But that is besides the point because she worries about something else. She has recently been invited to Lady Simona's picnic, but when she attended, she was confused as to why the people there were so considerate. Harrison explains that even though nobles usually have a wall up against others, they cannot possibly have them up for a cutie like her. After all, she is adored by those picky ladies. Lipe then begins asking something about the Dragon Knights, but is interrupted when Harrison straight out refuses to answer questions related to that. He knows that Lipe is going to ask why the White Dragon Knights are the only ones to not have the authority among the 4 Dragon Knights. This is a complicated topic, especially since it is about Lipe's family, so Harrison feels like he shouldn't be talking about it. Lipe's reassurance that she trusts him to only tell her the truth and not say anything with ill intent makes him even more afraid of the unconditional trust Lipe places upon him. He fears that he will one day lose it. However, he suggests that it is better if Lipe asks her brother, Lucius, about it instead. But Lipe disagrees, already predicting that Lucius will worry too much and lose sleep about her wanting to know about such things. Harrison laughs so hard at the accurate description of Lucius by Lipe, but he tells her that he is the same as Lucius, for they only worry about her. These two may have fought a lot for Lipe's attention recently, but they aren't best friends for nothing. They think alike, especially about protecting Lipe. Meanwhile, Lucius and his father are on their way home, and the two are discussing how disastrous his training is that day. He admits that he is merely worried that Hal is visiting their house. Count Rohan understands that his son is merely being protective of his little sister. Suddenly, they come across Robel and Elphanie in the garden, but without Lipe and Harrison. When he notices his father and brother there, Robel greets them. However, Lucius aggressively demands to know where their sister is. Robel now only realizes that Lipe is not there to see him perform his giant spirit, so he's about to go off and find her. However, Elphanie begins throwing a tantrum when she is not allowed to hold a sword, not satisfied with holding a wooden one. She is convinced that she too can make a giant spirit with their swords. Good thing Harrison and Calliope join them on time. To Elphanie's surprise, Lipe begins fussing over her, wanting to know if she is hurt or anything. She tells Elphanie that she is relieved when it is confirmed that she's okay. Lipe tells Elphanie that she should train to be stronger if she wants to wield a sword. We can really see how much Lipe wants to be friends with Elphanie. even though the little girl still needs to work on her attitude. However, when she is informed that Elphanie had no trouble wielding the wooden sword earlier, she is impressed. Suddenly, and enraged, Lucius confronts Harrison for spending time alone with Lipe. Harrison teasingly tells him that it's because Lipe likes being alone with him. Both the Count and Lucius are shocked to hear that their precious Lipe likes to be around Harrison. To escape their wrath, Harrison instantly picks up his little sister to leave. That night, Lucius comes to Lipe's bedroom to read her a story, and based on the title of the books he has brought, his intentions are pretty clear. He wants to remind Lipe that she can't trust men, no matter what. Which is a little ironic because he is a man himself. At least he will be, because he's still a baby in my eyes. He reads the book entitled, Men, Don't Ever Trust Them. He talks about how men will betray her in the future and how painful this will be, putting emphasis on the fact that she should never trust that man. OMG, Lucius, you are so obvious with this. Also, I think you need to remember that your sister is just 5 years old, so you can chill for now. Before she goes to bed, her brother embraces her and tucks her in bed. He kisses her forehead and bids her goodnight with a fond look on his face. She has never seen that expression on his face before, especially in her past life. She notes that not only is her family changing, but the people around her as well. However, she knows that she still has to prepare for the future. Her family needs to become stronger. For that to happen, they need more money and authority. Fortunately, she knows many people who will definitely succeed in the future. The problem is, she knows from experience in her past life that they are some unknown force who are out to ruin their family. So no matter what business they invest in, it's bound to fail. That is when an idea strikes her, and that is Hildert Simona, a person she knows will be well-known and successful. Being playmates with him will lead to endless possibilities. She had only walked past him some time ago, and back then, she only viewed him as another child. But then again, she is one now too. The next morning, everyone is fussing over Lipe because she did not get much sleep. She receives many kisses from her ever-bickering and affectionate family to comfort her, even from her usually stern father. Lipe is truly loved, y'all. Just look at how princess-like she is to them. However, Lucius is in a foul mood and has also stayed up quite late last night. This is all because he was reading on child development to understand Lipe more. He is horrified to discover that at 5 years old, children tend to socialize outside of the family and may ask an adult to marry them. He is still enraged whenever he thinks about it, and it shows. Just look at how terrifying he is. Lucius is so bothered by Lipe's interest in Harrison that he asks her who she wants to marry when she grows up. Robel takes this opportunity to present himself as the only obvious candidate to marry Lipe, and the rest of the family follows suit. How can you guys think of a 5-year-old's future marriage? This family is something else. Lipe is obviously uncomfortable with the topic, but she answers as level-headed as ever. She wants to ensure the survival of her family, so she answers that she will marry a man who has a strong influence. Her response shocks her family because how can an innocent girl talk like this? Later on in her room, Lipe thinks back to the chaos that occurred during her meal with the family. Despite how silly the whole thing was, she actually found inspiration from it. How can she not realize that marrying someone influential is an easier solution to get money and power? Of course, this is still a long way from now, and there is a possibility of the marriage being canceled if the tragedy in their family happens again. For now, she is thinking about investing. But for that, she needs someone she can trust and who is not officially affiliated with the House of Rustichel. The person that pops into her mind is Harrison, but she knows that she can't put him at even more risk than he already is for being friends with them. She thinks about how she can't really invest by herself since she's 5 years old. She also recalls that the royal family's worth can't be lowered by external pressure until she realizes that there is actually a way. For the first time, Lipe asks her mother to go somewhere, which is almost a miracle to her mother, who always asks her first to go somewhere they can enjoy. While the two are walking through a path of flat stones, Lady Rustichel observes her daughter to be deep in thought. She worryingly asks her what is bothering her. Lipe then responds positively and smiles at her mother for allowing her to experience the warmth of the sun today. More so, Lady Rustichel suggests traveling to Diaper with her to get away from the heat of the sun. Immediately, Lipe agrees with her mother, so they get into their carriage, and while riding it, Lady Rustichel assures her daughter that she is there to listen to her. Aww, this mother-daughter moment is so precious. Soon after they arrive, Lipe gets the residual smell of the death of many people in a now lively avenue. She shrugs it off as she sees her mother getting quite excited to take a stroll in the avenue with her. While they walk through shops, she's also on a mission of finding the perfect location of the Temple of Vith where she can rebuild. It is the only thing that she wants to achieve at this point. However, she also has to give joy to her mother, so whatever her mother does to her, she agrees. Lipe, after a few hours, slumps as she tolerates her mother buying everything for Lipe in every store they go. However, she isn't satisfied as she'd rather earn money than spend it. Nonetheless, it is her main goal, so she ends the dressing up first and goes out to search for the perfect spot. Suddenly, a boy of her age catches her attention. She is confused to see that person around and thinks for a minute to remember someone. The guy she encounters is actually the son of Duke Castillo, whom Lady Rustichel greets the moment she gets closer to them. She politely speaks to the cold-looking master who is in the middle of strolling around the avenue with his trusty family attendant, Luguin. Lipe and her mother awaits his response, but only receive nothing from him but a formal greeting to strangers whom he denies he knows. Luguin has to inform him of their presence before they separate ways. How rude! Are these nobles always so posh and snotty? After Luguin and his master depart from the area, the attendant asks the master why he was unusually unfriendly today. He seems to be drawing a line, or so it feels that way in front of Lady Rustichel. Yet the master answers vaguely and changes the topic with a grin. Meanwhile, Lady Rustichel is not yet satisfied with the time she is spending with her daughter, so eventually she goes out of her way to go wherever her daughter wants and is led to an ice cream shop. In reality, Lipe only wants to go there to get a full view of the location of the Temple of the God of Youth, Vith. It is incredibly near the ice cream shop that they are at the moment. She plans to buy the land as she believes there are no plans of rebuilding the temple. However, she cannot easily do so without her parents, especially her mom who is currently with her today. Correspondingly, she tries her luck and asks questions about how land breathes to her mother. Lady Rustichel feels even happier to know that her daughter reads popular novels after all. She answers every question Lipe throws until she arrives with the topic of ether. The topic gets Lady Rustichel curious about what Lipe is thinking of, thus, she asks her daughter about it. And so, Lipe is about to speak about her reason for asking. Lipe tells her about the ether as life energy. She invests her topics on ether so she can pinpoint her options in buying the location of the temple. However, the deeper her talk with Lady Rustichel goes, the more she realizes how great the temple holds holy power. She speaks about the Emperor and the conspiracy that is most probably inclusive of her family situation. Then, when she tries her luck on purchasing the land, her mother enlightens her that despite how much the location will cost in the bidding, it is most likely priceless as it is not for sale and the owner will not allow it. Lipe thinks of further options and imagines earning a stigma that she can place inside their premises and start earning money by adding an entrance fee to their abode for people to see the stigma. Motivation gushes as soon as her plans are finalized in her mind, and since it is not plausible to buy the land, she intends to find nearby areas that she can purchase to commence her plans. However, she is faced with a dilemma. She plans on asking her mother to buy an area, but it requires her to buy several shops at this point. Somehow, she believes that it is common to buy one store, but having to buy many would sound implausible. Unexpectedly, Lipe suddenly falls to the ground, struggling and seeking help. She holds her neck as if she is choking and screams, hurting. Lady Rustichel cries for help as she does not know what to do while she agonizes over seeing her daughter in grave pain. Lipe screams for help as she does not want to die, not without saving her family. Oh no! What is happening? The still struggling Lipe can do nothing but grab her throat in an attempt to grasp a breath as her mother rushes to her. Unfortunately, thus far, she still hasn't succeeded. Lipe starts to hear her own heartbeat, right as the thoughts of her possibly dying enter her mind. However, every thought of it goes out as defiance against her would-be demise, saying that she still cannot die while also citing her family as her main reason. A blinding white light envelops the poor girl's vision, seemingly indicating her loss of consciousness. Out of the blue, Lipe hears a stranger's voice in the void, where moments later, she finally opens her eyes. It seems that all is well. Her mother gives her a very tight hug, also with some tough motherly love, saying how Lipe should always say whatever is bothering her. Still, it's plainly obvious that she's relieved that her daughter's okay. Lipe's grateful for her mother's genuine love and concern, but for this particular moment, the thoughts in her head circulate about the mysterious voice she heard earlier. Anyhow, they hear another voice calling from amidst the crowd, only to find that Lady Brinel is there among the growing crowd. Lipe gathers from her memories that this isn't a very nice person to deal with, but she still shows proper courtesy. Upon learning that Lipe is apparently sick, the lady invites him to her home, where upon talking with her mother, her true intentions are revealed. She thinks that Lady Rustichel deliberately had Lipe to suck up to one of the members, Hildert in particular, of the most powerful family. The uneasiness that Lady Brinel brings along with the suggestion of Lady Rustichel manipulating Lipe makes the latter change her expression. Seeing that upon Lady Rustichel's face seems to put Lady Brinel in a position to do more insults, thinking that she's right. However, with the calmness that has no hint of anger, Lipe's mother merely states that the more envious Lady Brinel is, then the worse she looks. If she's so jealous that she tries to claim such rumors, Lady Rustichel strongly suggests that at the very least, she should hide her envy. Wow, what a very common unintended burn! Anyhow, things only seem to escalate on a worse note when Lipe herself enters the room, prompting a pause in the two adults' conversation. She first talks to her mother, but she correctly deduces that the atmosphere between the two ladyships is extremely thick. Nonetheless, she again shows proper courtesy to Lady Brinel. Unfortunately, this seems to be the last straw for her, as she starts rambling onto the child about how she is indeed famous for being strange. The lady is as close to yelling as her face contorts with jealousy, still continuing on her theory that Lipe is truly manipulating the high society on her mother's whim. But just like her mother, Lipe faces the envy of the older lady with calmness, hinting at just the same words as her mother had said, only harsher. Lipe states that she has heard of people that try to cut down the people that have what they want, and plainly calls Lady Brinel shallow. Quite expectedly upon hearing those words, jealousy turns to anger, and Lady Brinel turns to smack Lipe. But fortunately, Duke Castillo's son, who happens to be there as well, observing the exchange at a distance, steps in to save the poor child. Prince Castillo's sudden appearance shocks both Lipe and Lady Brinel. Well, the latter more so than the former, who immediately tries to announce her ladyship and her name. But as she soon discovers, it seems she already gave him a bad impression, as try as she might to remove her hand from a proper greeting, Prince Castillo doesn't release her from his grip. He only does so when Lipe says his name, thus giving Lady Brinel time to formally introduce herself. Not that it would give her anything to go on with, as the prince doesn't even take the time to look her in the eye. Instead, he turns his attention to Lipe, who he asks if she's all right. Again, the angry head of Brinel's jealousy starts to creep up as she sees Lipe as a brat getting in her way again. Seeing as the entire conversation with the prince probably won't go as planned, Lady Brinel instead now tries to focus on feigning innocence about the entire thing, claiming that all she did was to give Lipe and her mother a place to rest while she's sick. Fortunately, even Prince Castillo's servant steps in to say that she did indeed try to hit poor Lipe. Still, she holds her ground, saying that she merely reached her hand out and tried to gauge the young child's sickness. The prince then cunningly suggests that Lady Brinel's tale must be quite the story to share to the nobles, effectively making sure to trap the lady in her own convoluted lies. After Lady Rustichel had formally announced that she will send a letter of grievance to Lady Brinel, Lipe asks her if they can leave. They do so, but not before Lipe and Prince Castillo lock eyes. On the carriage ride home, Lady Rustichel can't help but to express how proud she is of her daughter about being able to handle herself in front of Lady Brinel. Lady Brinel paces herself back and forth in her mansion during one particular night. It seems that her dreams of returning to high society are finally becoming true, as she's been invited to Lady Rohan's evening party. Still, despite the invitation coming from the prince himself, the twisted lady can't help but be worried. But no negative emotion would stop her in her pursuit of prestige. She arrives at the party with a smile, happy about her current situation. Immediately after the arrival, however, she notices that everyone's eyes are following her intently. She even thinks of one vain moment that they're all staring at her diamonds, right until she sees Lady Rustichel and Lady Simona. What's more, she's more envious that Lady Rustichel is again the center of attention. Just as the people are beginning to question Lady Brinel and her invitation's authenticity, Lady Rohan shows up. However, despite validating her invitation, it turns out Lady Rohan had only invited her on Lady Simona's request so that they can destroy her beloved reputation permanently. They do this by bringing up the one thing that is confirmed after Lady Brinel casually raised an arm to strike Lipe, her abuse of her own children. Though again, the disgraced lady tries to defend herself and feign innocence. But in terms of proof, Lady Rohan remembers her conversation with Prince Castillo the night before. It's still right in the midst of Lady Rohan's party, and it is there where it seems that Lady Brinel will finally be exposed for the abuser that she is. However, upon seeing that the evidence being used against her will come from a communication crystal, Lady Brinel's confidence shoots up almost immediately, as she knows that every one of her children that she abused can never bring themselves to talk about it. And so she readily agrees to bring up the evidence and whoever's testimony that they supposedly managed to fake. But to her horror, it turns out that the evidence isn't a testimony. The communication crystal somehow manages to project a vision of the past. Right then and there, the abuse and cruelty suffered by her very children because of her vain pride is laid out for everyone to see. She hits them even as they beg for forgiveness, all because she blames them as the reason as to why she's not being taken seriously by high-class society. It's ironic that somehow, everything that she accuses Lady Rustichel of being is exactly the malicious person that she is. All in all, karma really is unpleasant. Meanwhile, 10 days after the whole affair, Lipe is seen taking a rest in her room. She thinks about how even being in Lady Brinel's study all those days ago, she has started to hear the faintest sounds made by the things around her, like music. This prompts her to stand up, but she discovers she's already in another plane of reality, with some sort of mystical whale already there waiting for her. And to make matters even more weird, the whale introduces itself as Numa Cathis Terra. If you find it difficult to pronounce its name, don't worry. Lipe did as well. It shortened its name to Terra, thankfully, for everyone's convenience. But what's more important is the fact that apparently Lipe, aside from being able to detect stigma and ether of the great spirit of the earth, it seems that she too has the ability to convert terre, the form ether takes before conversion, into ether. In this universe, terre exists in most places, and naturally it gets converted to ether, which is the life force of everything. Once terre is used up, ether is converted back to terre, but when terre is insufficient in a certain area, Terra, the Great Spirit, is called upon to stabilize it. It just so happens that through Lipe's singing, she can convert terre into ether herself. However, if she doesn't sing, then the terre will enter her body forcefully, which is how she choked and lost consciousness prior to meeting Lady Brinel. Anyhow, Terra assures her that she will be able to control her powers when she wakes up, but the Great Spirit doesn't tell her exactly how. Nonetheless, Lipe expresses her thanks to him, and rather amusingly, he instead asks her to sing for him instead. Terra, the great spirit of Earth and lover of music. After about 10 days have passed since meeting with Terra on the space he made for her and him solving a lot of questions Lipe has, she unfortunately is now being faced with a new set of problems. But this time, it isn't about supernatural things, but rather the politics of high society. First thing in the morning, the young Lipe finds everyone to be a bit strange, like they're acting rather different from their usual self. Even her nanny, whom she finds waiting for her right outside her door with a concerned face, seems to not be herself. And so Lipe asks for her mother, but her nanny only says that the lady is busy with an unexpected guest. It turns out that guest is none other than the husband of Lady Brinel, the Viscount. This pudgy, malicious-looking man thought it was worse to face Lipe's father, but as it turns out, Lady Rustichel's calm demeanor is too much for him to handle. Meanwhile, Lipe enters the room and quickly grasps the situation. She greets the Viscount, who is actually delighted that now, with her daughter present, Lady Rustichel will not act out. Like all the others who've come into Lipe's presence, the Viscount Brinel was, of course, shocked at how well-mannered and articulate the young lady is for her age. With the calm, collected manner of her mother, Lipe decides to conduct herself more properly and formally, which is another thing that puts the Viscount to shame, though not one word of malice has been said. Lady Rustichel picks up on her daughter's demeanor and further shames the Viscount by noting that even though he was the one who came here to ask for forgiveness, and even if he is the one who disregarded formal invitation and barged in without notice, it was Lipe who seems more civil than him. Ugh, what a mother-daughter teamwork! As it turns out, the Viscount's intentions are truly far from good, as apparently his investors and clients had urged him to apologize after they threatened to cut ties with him after the incident. And in order to clear his name, he places all the blame he has onto his wife, even saying that he has no idea what kind of woman she is. But Lipe again puts him to shame by pointing out that he is married to his wife, and that he is the father of the children that she abused. Of course, this leads to an outburst by the Viscount, whose pride and ego seems to have taken a hit by those words. He maliciously suggests that the only reason the Rustichel family has been dragging this out is because they seek compensation, and so he asks them to name their price. Lipe, despite getting sick by her memories from her old life wherein the same thing has been said after her father's death, looks him in the eyes and asks what he's willing to give. Even just staring at this young girl's brave face unnerves the Viscount greatly. But in her gaze, there seems to be something supernatural, like wind suddenly appearing with her determination. Anyway, the Count thinks that for now, he's safe because all kids could ask for are things such as toys and dresses and nothing of value. Unfortunately for him, Lipe isn't your typical kid. The young girl casually asks for the salon on Patril Street, the place where Lipe first felt connection to the ether. And her casualness about this even makes the Count accept readily before he can even think about what he offered. The Viscount jumps in the air, along with his hairpiece, LOL, as he finally realizes the extent of what she asked. He at first tries to say that she's a little bit too young to own a salon, but again, Lipe expresses her determination to face her fears. And then he tries to reason out that the property is in his wife's name, so he can't make that decision. But after Lipe calls him all talk, the Viscount walks away, assuring that he will discuss the matter with his wife. All seems good, and even though Lipe worries that she lost control in front of her mother, the latter actually reassures her that she doesn't have to face her fears readily, and if they're hard to forget, then she's sure Lipe will overcome them. No, Lady Rustichel truly is the best mother. A few days later, the two go to visit Lady Sarlino in their estate. While the two adults, Lady Sarlino and Rustichel, talk the afternoon away, while Angelina, or Julian rather, goes off to play with Lipe. However, to her shock, Lipe finds Angelina casually ripping off the wings of a butterfly, effectively killing it. Before Lipe can even begin to comprehend or just comment about Julian disguised as Angelina and his dangerous behavior on killing a butterfly, a maid from the Sarlino house calls out to them to inform the two that Lady Simona and her son Hildert have arrived. However, Lipe notices that the maid has seen what Angelina has done with the butterfly, but chooses not to say anything about it. This leaves the young girl wondering as to why it seems nobody in the Sarlino household corrects Julian's bad behavior. And she herself knows what he will turn into if the early signs of his psychotic behavior aren't changed. Anyway, the two kids meet up with Lady Simona, who is rather cheerful upon seeing the girls, although Julian gets a bit shy when she greets him. Nonetheless, Lady Simona congratulates Lipe on being able to acquire the salon from the Viscount Brinel, who actually got shunned by the public when he tried to open his case to them. She ends their conversation, though, when she sees Hildert's anxious face, and so she allows the three kids to go and play by themselves. Unfortunately, neither Hildert nor Julian want to have Lipe play with the latter, and so they try to fight for her attention. Ever the pacifist, Lipe decides that all three should play together in a game of house. But just as Hildert and Angelina/Julian argue over who gets to be married to Lipe, she instead suggests that they be the one to do so. Rather unfortunately, the matchmaking that Lipe tries so hard to work on ends up not at all in a good place. After just 10 years in their pretend marriage, which is actually just 10 minutes, Hildert and Angelina/Julian can't stop arguing, with both sides calling for a divorce just as much as the other. Oh, the pains of a failed marriage. Yes, it falls on Lipe again to try and mediate between the two hotheads, and as it seems, the only thing they can agree on is taking good care and attending to Lipe and her every wants and needs. But the side effect of their teamwork turns out to be that Lipe is now being dressed way too much for her liking, so she offers to work on Angelina's hair as well. Actually, dressing up doesn't leave Lipe without a disadvantage, as Hildert, who is by himself at this point, looks up to see Lipe being as beautiful as ever. He seems struck by her beauty, and the poor boy's heart starts racing faster. Right now, Hildert seems more dumbfounded and still like a statue because of Lipe's beauty. But trying to save face, he instead shouts that she isn't pretty, not one bit. And that's despite the boy's painfully obvious blushing face. Seeing his chance, Angelina/Julian instead affirms Lipe's beauty and even smirks in Hildert's direction to indicate that this time, he wins Lipe's praise. This causes Hildert to storm out, but before Lipe can go after him, Julian stops her. She thinks Julian's just being mature, but actually, he just doesn't want Lipe to go after him. Speaking of Hildert, the young boy is frantic that he couldn't say what he meant, but noticing the flowers in the garden, he decides to make a flower crown for Lipe instead. When the time comes to give it to her, Hildert makes sure not to beat around the bush. He even made her a ring from the flowers, but Julian smacks it out of his hand and stomps it right on the floor. Of course, this causes the two boys to fight, with Lipe again trying to stop them. The two come to blows, but thankfully their commotion was loud enough that their parents now confront the two troublemakers. Everyone seems to wait for Lady Simona's reaction, but in actuality, she bursts in laughter at the thought of her son finally having some genuine friends. Coming from a family with royal lineage, sometimes that's hard for kids to have. She turns her attention to Angelina, but to her surprise, she seems fine after fighting with a boy. Well, if you only knew, Lady Simona. With that out of the way, and with Lady Simona not letting Angelina's mother apologize, they instead ask why they started fighting in the first place. They ask Lipe about it, but Hildert stands in front of them to admit his mistakes, remembering Lipe's words about how she likes guys that own up to their mistakes. What a major green flag, that Hildert! Still, at the very least, he also made his mom happy about how mature he has become. With the entire thing over now, Hildert is then asked to change his clothes. While doing so, he thinks about how the clothes he's borrowing must be from Angelina's supposed dead twin brother. It doesn't fit him though, so he looks for more clothes, but he stumbles upon Julian changing too. Devastated that now he can't marry Lipe, Hildert, in the name of his honor, declares that now he will take responsibility for seeing a girl's naked body and will marry Angelina/Julian promptly. How stupidly cute, Hildert. But as Julian plainly puts it, he is not a girl. And to prove his point, he lifts his skirt up, urging the now cowering Hildert to take a peek. And what he sees is that certainly Julian has the male parts resembling a tiny jalapeno pepper. The shock from finding out that Julian is a boy eventually subsides for Hildert, though not before he asks whether or not he likes to cross-dress. Though not giving a reason as to why he does so, Julian admits he doesn't like to cross-dress and isn't into that sort of thing. He pauses for a bit and asks Hildert if he's going to tell Lipe. And Hildert, with a stern look on his face, states that obviously he wouldn't. Honorable is truly one word to describe Hildert. Speaking of Lipe, she is currently in conversation with the adult ladies. They all ask her if Hildert was the one to make her flower crown, to which she happily says yes to. Therein sets a bunch of problems for the Rustichel family, who panics thinking that their Lipe is going to be taken away. Robel seems more distressed, and accidentally he breaks Lipe's glass piggy bank. He starts thinking Lipe will hate him for it, but she reaches her hand to him instead. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!